Big man, what's up?
Why are you drinking in there?
A little something, something. Actually, I'm good. I'm good today. It's coffee still. It's only 2 p.m.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what good stuff do you have for us today? What good word do you have?
I'm glad you asked because I was thinking of something actually today, this morning, and today I want to talk about embracing failure and the power of self-discovery. And this is another very personal sort of reflection episode, right? And just to put it in context for people who might be watching this, I've had a very difficult personal and professional last 12, 13, 14 months, right? And basically what happened was that I was recruited from Canada to a prestigious management consulting firm, recruited to move back to Africa and work on mostly on, obviously my background, mostly on public health consulting across the African continent. And it took a massive, massive personal sacrifice to take that opportunity, right? Which I'm glad I did. I took the opportunity. I moved, I got here. Few months in, I started noticing that there was a bit of a mismatch in terms of the fit, right? I started feeling like I wasn't the right fit for the environment. And I think I've spoken about this previously. And by fit, I mean just in terms of my natural skill set, like my natural talents, in terms of my personality, right? Like the culture just wasn't my vibe. Not anything bad, just wasn't the right fit. And most importantly for me, the values, right? So long story short, a year and 2 days after this big move that I'd made, I quit. I resigned, I walked away. And on reflection, right? Like, when I'm alone with myself and I'm being honest with myself, whichever way you slice it up, whichever way you cut it up, it was a massive failure, right? That's my personal assessment, as objective as I could, be. It was a massive failure, probably one of the biggest failures so far in my relatively young life. And why I'm starting to talk about this embrace of failure and power of self-discovery is because I was having this similar conversation with a very dear friend of mine, and I said, yeah, I failed at the job. And she went, no, don't say that, you didn't fail. I was like, dude, chill out. I failed, right? You're the one who's bothered by that word, right? And it dawned on me that we have this fear of what I'm now calling the F word, failure, right? We're so scared of that word, failure, right? And why is that? So that's what I started thinking about. And I think failure, personally, in my experience, I think failure is such a powerful thing. Because let me tell you something. Even though I've just gone through the last year of my life that I will categorize as probably my biggest failure yet, and I'm still young, so there's even going to be bigger and more significant failures for sure. But even though I've gone through my biggest failure yet, right, I've always known what I want to be, right? Like what I want to do with my life is to be an entrepreneur, obviously, focused on healthcare in sub-Saharan Africa, right? Solving the problem of access to healthcare in sub-Saharan Africa. I've always known that. This process of failure, you're not going to believe this, I've come out of it more confident in my ability to accomplish, like to be that entrepreneur than I've ever been, right? And you're probably like, how do you come out of a failure, a deprecating experience, more confident than you've ever been? And the answer to that, my friend, is self-discovery. That's why we're talking about this today. The answer to that is self-discovery. And then I started thinking, like, why do I feel like I'm so ready, like, after going through this process where I've had to confront, like, my weaknesses, I've had to, confront failure, really. And self-discovery. I just know myself so much better. I've gotten so much clarity as to who I am, the environments that I'll thrive in, what I bring to the table in terms of my strengths, like my value, and my values as well, right? And ultimately, I know my weaknesses so much better than I've ever known them. And as an entrepreneur, one of your greatest strengths is knowledge of your weaknesses. As an entrepreneur, one of your greatest strengths is knowledge of your weaknesses, knowing where your blind spots are, so that you can surround yourself with people who can, cover up for that, and you can really, really hone in on what your strengths are and leverage that to the max, right? So for me, it's a bit weird, right? That you come out of this experience and you come out even more confident. So that's why this sort of, this reflection started coming up in my head. And as usual, I always have 3 key messages, right, that I want to pass across. And the first one is targeted to young people, or younger people, I should say. Obviously, I'm 28, going on 29 now, right? So I've been very fortunate that I've sort of always put myself in different positions, right? I've always taken risks. I've always done all sorts of things. So I'm at a point in my life where my self-esteem is already developed. Some would say, my mom would tell you that my self-esteem was developed when I was 1 month old. And some will call it arrogance. But basically, I'm at a point in my life where my self-esteem is developed. So when I go through a harrowing experience, an experience of failure, I can actually look at it and not internalize that and say, oh, I'm a failure. I can say I failed at this. You get what I'm saying? And I can take the powerful lessons from it. But what I'm worried about, and why I want to speak to younger people, what I'm worried about is that we're in a society that has a tendency to try to fit square pegs into round holes, right? And so a lot of young people could go through something similar very early on in their lives or in their career, maybe just fresh out of university or whatever, and they start to internalize that, right? And then it just becomes a vicious cycle, right? So I want young people to be very aware of that, right? And not just, first of all, don't be afraid of failure, but also when you go through that process, you want to come out of it stronger and not get tougher on yourself. So that's the first key message. The second key message is around the embracing failure, right? Like I said, we are in this culture, in this society, where we're all trying to protect everyone's self-esteem, everyone's ego, and all of that, and we're scared of the F word, right? But we need to learn to embrace failure. When you dig deeper into the fear of failure, right, I realize that it's not actually fear of the act of failing, it's fear of what will other people think. What will my mom think, my dad, my friends, my cousins, my this, right? And then you think about it, like let's say let's use this analogy, right? You're in a basketball court, there's no one around, it's just you, no one around, just you on the basketball court with a ball. Are you gonna take a shot or no? You take a shot.
I won't step back, take a deep 3.
Exactly, right? Because no one is watching,
yeah.
Right? But you know what's funny? That's real life, man. Like nobody thinks about you more than 1 split second a year. Right? Maybe your parents will think about you more. If your siblings are nice, maybe they'll think about you a lot more. But no one cares, really. Like, so just take your shot. Don't be afraid of failure. There's so much power in failing, right? And then the last part of it, the third key message, is around self-discovery, right? And then I started thinking of this even deeper, right? Like, why is failure such a powerful conduit, I guess, if that's the right use of the word, for self-discovery? And I started thinking back to my days when I did my Bachelor of Science in Psychology before medical school. And I remember a class we took in evolutionary psychology, right, that talked about the value you could get from what's it called? The value you could get from sort of depressive, I'm using this word very loosely, by the way, from a depressive mood, right? And how, like, evolutionarily, it could actually protect you. And that's the thing, right? When you fail, when you're going through moments of failure, we all have a natural tendency to withdraw, right? But when we're succeeding, we're outward. We want to show off. We want to let everyone know. But when you're failing, you withdraw. And that's where the introspection comes in. That's when you really get deep within and start to learn about yourself, right? And that's why we need to take those periods of failure and use that as a big opportunity for self-discovery, because that's when you're going to have the perfect sort of petri dish for self-discovery. Remember, one of your greatest strengths is knowledge of your weaknesses. So learning about yourself, not to beat yourself up, but just to learn about who you are, what you're good at, what your weaknesses are, what your purpose is. That's it, really. So embrace failure, power of self-discovery. That's all I got for you today, man. Anything else?
Awesome stuff, man.
All right, I can go on with my weekend, yeah?
Yes, you can.
Awesome.